Have you ever walked into a room and felt like no one really saw you? Not that they are ignoring you in a dramatic way, but it's more that, in a subtle but painful way, you somehow became background noise in your own life. Maybe it started after you retired, or after the kids moved away, or maybe it's just been building slowly. Until one day you looked in the mirror and the thought, am I still the same person I used to be? If you've felt invisible lately, like your presence doesn't quite register the way it used to, you're not imagining it, you're not alone, and you're definitely not broken. The truth is, so many people over 60 start to feel this way, like the world doesn't quite make room for them anymore. Less eye contact, less inclusion, fewer questions asked, fewer answers listened to. And the worst part? It's not just about how others treat you. It's how easy it becomes to shrink yourself in response, to fade quietly, to take up less space, until you barely recognize the person who used to be seen. But here's the thing, you're still here, still wise, still worthy of love, light, invisibility. And in the next few minutes, we're going to talk about 5 powerful ways to gently reclaim your presence, without shouting, forcing, or pretending to be someone you're not. Because you don't need to be louder to be seen. You just need to come back into focus. And to do that, we have to start at the root. Because invisibility isn't just a feeling, it often begins when the roles we used to live by start to disappear. Let's talk about that. Number 1, visibility fades when roles shift. You see, for most of our lives, we're defined by what we do. Not who we are, but what we provide. You were the parent who packed the lunches, the employee who showed up early, the spouse who handled the bills, the volunteer who made the event run smoothly. Your role was clear, your name was known, and your presence, it had weight, responsibility, importance. But what happens when those roles shift or disappear entirely? Let me tell you about Linda. Linda ran a small real estate office for over 20 years. She was sharp, organized, the kind of person who could walk into any room and command respect without raising her voice. But after she retired, things changed. No more morning emails, no more daily decisions, no more people counting on her every hour of the day. At first, she called it freedom, but quietly something else crept in, a kind of weightless feeling, not in a floaty, joyful way, but in the do I still matter kind of way. That's the thing about identity. When your role fades, if you're not careful, your sense of self fades with it. But here's what Linda and many others eventually realize. You are not your job. You are not your to-do list. And you don't stop being visible when you stop being busy. The world may not announce your value anymore. So sometimes you have to remind yourself. But here's where it gets trickier. Because even if you do reclaim that inner sense of self, we live in a world that doesn't always reflect it back. Let's talk about what happens when modern culture makes it even harder to feel seen. Number 2, modern culture isn't built for aging faces. Let's be honest, it's not just your imagination. The world isn't built to celebrate aging. You don't see many silver-haired women in shampoo ads, or older men modeling athletic wear unless it's labeled seniors activewear, like aging needs a special aisle. And when's the last time you saw a leading character in a movie who reminded you of yourself? Someone over 65, living, loving, laughing, without being the comic relief or the cautionary tale? The truth is, culture has a short attention span, and the algorithm? It's even worse. It doesn't reward wisdom, it rewards noise, trends, youth. It celebrates quick fixes and filtered skin and 20-second attention spans. But here's something most people forget. Just because culture doesn't reflect you back, doesn't mean you've disappeared. It means the mirror it's holding up is cracked, and a cracked mirror doesn't define your worth. It just distorts it. So here's the quiet rebellion. Refuse to let a system that wasn't built for you decide who you are. You may not go viral, you may not trend, but your life, the real, layered, beautifully imperfect story you carry, is more meaningful than anything a screen can measure. But even knowing that, it's hard not to internalize it, isn't it? Especially when that outer invisibility starts to seep into our inner lives, pulling us away from the people, the routines, and the small connections that once made us feel human. Let's talk about how isolation feeds the feeling. Number 3, isolation feeds the feeling. Let's pause for a second, because sometimes the feeling of invisibility doesn't come from other people ignoring us. It comes from the slow, quiet drift of pulling away ourselves. Maybe it started small. You stopped going to that weekly lunch group. You skipped a family gathering because you felt tired or just out of place. A few missed calls, a few unanswered messages, and suddenly the silence isn't just in the room, it's inside you. Here's the tricky part. The more invisible you feel, the easier it becomes to shrink your world down to just you. But here's the honest truth. Isolation doesn't protect us. It amplifies the ache. It makes those little doubts grow louder. Does anyone notice if I'm not there? Would it matter if I didn't show up? That's why sometimes the smallest act of reaching out can be the most powerful one to push back. Call someone, even if it's just to talk about the weather. Send a text, even a silly one. Or if that feels like too much, walk outside, wave at a neighbor, let yourself be part of the world. Even for a minute. Connection doesn't have to be big or loud. It just has to be real. And here's something a lot of people miss. Feeling seen isn't just about how others treat us. Sometimes it starts with how we treat ourselves, in the smallest moments of the day. Let's talk about how tiny rituals can help you reclaim your sense of self. Number 4, reclaiming identity through tiny rituals. Not all visibility comes from being noticed by others. Some of it, maybe the most important part, comes from noticing yourself. And one of the quietest, most powerful ways to do that is through tiny rituals. We're not talking about routines for productivity. This isn't about checking boxes or getting more done. It's about reclaiming your sense of self, one small, intentional act at a time. Putting on the good earrings, even if no one's visiting. Smoothing your bed just the way you like it. Wearing that color that makes you feel alive, not just comfortable. These aren't chores, they're reminders. Reminders that you're still here, still worthy of care, still someone who gets to show up for themselves. Let me tell you about Marlene. She's 74, lives alone, and once told her daughter, "I don't bother with makeup anymore. No one's looking." But one morning, for no reason at all, she swiped on her old favorite lipstick, a soft coral shade she hadn't worn in years. And when she looked in the mirror, she smiled. Not because she looked younger, but because she looked like herself again. Those little rituals, they anchor us. They say, "I still matter," to me. But rituals are just the beginning, because sometimes, even when you're showing up for yourself, you still need to speak up, even if your voice trembles, even if you're not sure anyone's listening. Let's talk about what happens when you let your voice be heard. Number 5, speak, even if your voice shakes. Have you ever felt the urge to say something, but held it back? Maybe it was a story you wanted to share, a question you were too afraid to ask, or a truth you weren't sure was worth saying out loud. That silence, it builds over time. And the more we silence ourselves, the more invisible we become. Not just to others, but to ourselves. But here's the quiet truth. Your voice still matters, even if it shakes, even if it's not as loud as it used to be. Because being heard isn't about volume. It's about honesty. It's about presence. Let me tell you about Harold. He's 79, lost his wife a few years ago. Used to be the type who spoke only when spoken to. But at a community book club one afternoon, someone mentioned loneliness, and Harold cleared his throat. Then he talked about grief, about silence, about learning to cook for one instead of two. No one interrupted, no one looked away. And by the end of that meeting, 3 people had told him, "Me too." That's the power of speaking. You don't have to be profound. You just have to be real. So ask the question, share the story, say what's been sitting in your chest for too long. Because when you let yourself be heard, you let yourself be seen. Feeling invisible isn't weakness. It's a signal, a quiet nudge that something inside you is ready to be seen again. And the truth is, you haven't faded. You're not gone. You're still here, still full of stories, still capable of connection, still worthy of being known. Maybe the world stopped echoing your presence the way it once did, but that doesn't mean you vanished. It means it's time to reclaim your reflection on your terms. So take the step. Call the friend, wear the outfit, tell the story. Even if your voice shakes, you've spent a lifetime being something for everyone else. Now's the time to be visible, for you. So get out there, be seen, and as always, stay strong.